Dolce&Gabbana make me be a better Italian.
That's so beautiful.
They immerse you there. And that is a gift itself.
All of these shows have an element of emotion to them that I don't necessarily experience at other shows. I mean, even last night, it was so beautiful. And it was more of a minimal fashion show last night. The clothes were less kind of over the top, but the simplicity and the setting and this historical, magical village. It's always, I feel like I leave a Dolce&Gabbana Alta experience smarter.
Welcome to If Jewels Could Talk. I'm Carol Woolton, the voice of jewellery, an author, broadcaster, and the woman who initiated the role of jewellery editor at magazines like Tatler and British Vogue. This is a podcast for everyone, for people who do like jewellery, for people who don't realise they like jewellery, and anyone intrigued by fascinating facts, new ideas, and forgotten histories. So please join me as I tell sparkly tales, meeting all sorts of people, delving into 4 centuries of jewellery culture, and investigate what's happening now. This week we have a special episode for you. I've just been in Puglia with Dolce&Gabbana, seeing the Alta Moda, Alta Sartoria, and most importantly, the Alta Gioelleria show. And not least because the designers, Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana, were unveiling a new book, curated and written by myself, called Dolce&Gabbana Alta Gioelleria, Masterpieces of High Jewellery. So I took the opportunity while I was there to talk to high jewellery clients, to get behind their secret life. What is it like, the life of a high jewellery client? To live in that bubble, to see these glorious creations. How much does it actually cost? What do they spend? What do those 3 letters, POA, price on application, actually mean? I mean, for instance, this summer, if you were a high jewellery client, you were invited to Lake Como with Dior, to Greece with Louis Vuitton, to Rome with Van Cleef & Arpels, and to Puglia with Dolce&Gabbana. I mean, that is your summer pretty well taken care of. Anyway, we get behind the scenes and ask the questions, so please keep listening and hear about the secret life of a high jewellery client. I'm here with Cameron Silver, founder of Decades, sartorial advisor to half of Hollywood royalty, author. Cameron, thank you very much for joining me.
I'm delighted to be here. It's not so bad hanging out in Puglia.
And Ricky Moura, who is a real estate developer from Austin in Texas and is a high jewelry buyer and a crazy fashion follower. I mean, how do I describe you?
Fashion god.
Fashion god! He is a fashion god.
Yes, everybody's praying for him.
We're praying for you and to you.
Exactly.
Ricky, thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Now, Ricky, I have to say, I wrote about in American Vogue after the Alta Moda last year, and I described him as Mr. Texas. But on the podcast, we're outing him. It's Ricky. Here he is, talking live about being a high jewelry buyer.
Wonderful. I'm so glad to be here and be a real Ricky now, not just Mr. Texas.
Not Mr. Texas. And so, being a high jewelry buyer, your summer can be taken care of. Because if you're one of this sort of tiny percent in the world who's on the big brands list as a high jewelry buyer, you can go to Florence with Dior, you can go to Greece with Louis Vuitton, you can go to Rome with Van Cleef & Arpels, which has all happened recently, and here we are in Puglia with Dolce. I mean, it kind of is tiring being a high jewelry buyer, Ricky.
It is quite exhausting, yes, for many different reasons, but yes, it is very tiring. You have to make decisions and for things that you just want, right? That is just a desire to have, and that becomes sometimes exhausting.
And what to wear every day.
Exactly.
You need the wardrobe.
To match the jewelry, and that becomes I would not say an issue, but it's a part of things that I, quite frankly, never thought would happen, and that my jewelry have really to match with my outfit, because fashion and jewelry goes hand in hand. And
I'm going to be posting pictures, but just so you know, Ricky is in a leopard print silk shirt this morning, little shorts to match, and the most sensational Dolce black diamond and gold cross.
Cross, yes.
Cameron, meanwhile, has just got out of bed and he's in Dolce & Gabbana gym jams. Silk, red piping, super chic.
When you're in the Dolce & Gabbana world, you eat, literally sleep, and dress in this Dolce DNA.
But I'm kind of interested because you both have done this a lot. You've both gone around with all the brands to these amazing events where they try and tempt people to buy jewellery. And it's like they have to add on to tempt people, to take them to magnificent locations, to put on spectacular events. I mean, for instance, the first night we just had a welcome cocktail here. We're actually recording, I should have said, in the Borgo Ignazia, which is where Hailey and Justin Bieber got married. So we're having a little cocktail. We're thinking, gosh, that was lovely. We've had dinner, time to go home. No, Diana Ross comes and does a performance. So do you find, Ricky, that each year there has to be something more spectacular?
Exactly. They have to entice the clientele to buy something, as I described earlier, that you don't need, but you want, that you just have a fascination for. Therefore, they need to present something that is great to justify also what they ask for, right? Because high jewelry is a different market.
What have you noticed, Cameron? Have you noticed this, ultimate seduction? Because it's a very small percent of people. How many people in the world do you think are buying high jewelry?
I think it's grown a little bit as the world opens up more and more and new territories and opportunities, certainly in China and in India. The Middle East is a huge opportunity. But I think with the Alta Moda, which is very distinctive, is that you're buying into a cultural experience. And I always tell, I've been to the Alta Moda since the first one in Taormina. I mean, I'm like...
So this is 10 years?
Yeah, this is the 11th year. I mean,
Really?
I go way back.
That's wonderful.
And I always remind, somebody who's considering buying something, you can't buy it and intellectually quantify the value because of the cost of goods. You have to think about the visceral experience. And I think nobody does it better than Dolce & Gabbana to give you that experience. Like, Ricky's not just buying a piece of jewelry. He's buying the memory of the 5 nights we've been here and the friends that have been made, so that the piece has this
Emotional value.
Yes, emotional and energetic value, which is very distinctive from a lot of the other brands that are doing major activations. But nobody does it like Dolce & Gabbana.
I agree 100%. I just came from Como on Dior high jewelry event.
So Lake Como, by George Clooney's house.
Right. Yes, by the way, Gianni Versace will mention, which they took us to take pictures in front of the house and things like that. But Dolce & Gabbana, which I have to compare them, right? Because you go to, it really is a different ball game. They're in different levels. Even though they're all very high and very exclusive and very amazing, but they are in different levels. Because in my opinion, the other brands, in my opinion, cannot fulfill the clients the way they fulfill me here. Because it is a family feeling. As you described, you make friends. You're connected for 5 days with people.
You want to celebrate the creators, and what's so beautiful about Domenico and Stefano is that they have a very tangible relationship with the clients, which is unlike any other brand. I mean, I continue to work with so many different brands, and I've worked with many high jewelry brands and different luxury brands, but this is the only brand where the creative directors actually know their clients' names and the names of their dogs and how the children are and who's graduated school. It's very, very special. So I think something else that's very distinctive about Dolce & Gabbana is that the experience of time with these creative forces. I mean, Domenico and Stefano are really like the gods of modern day Italy as far as their contribution to promoting Italian style and culture and history. And it's very special to have that engagement with them.
In my opinion, in the world of fashion and jewelry, the biggest fault that they all have is that designers are designed to be gods, untouchable, that you don't see them and they come and they're socially awkward and all those things. Well, they should know their clients. They should be talking to them. And here at Dolce&Gabbana, they are having dinner with you. They're walking all the time. I go to the pop-up store, they are there. I don't know, on the line in the bathroom with you, and they don't want to go in front of you. They wait behind.
Oh,
because
the first night here, I'm walking with Domenico and Stefano, and I'm saying, go ahead down the stairs before me. They're like, no, Cameron, you first. You know, I'm just a poor guest here who's just charming. but
you bought some pajamas.
I bought
on the flip side.
but it is like really special, and I explain that to. I sometimes call myself like the Alta Moda whisperer, because a lot of people come to me and say, I want to come to Alta Moda. And I'll explain what the process is. But I said the most special part of this is the engagement with the creators. I love it.
Fantastic.
Now, was Victoire de Castellan at the Dior event?
She was.
And did you meet her?
I did not.
Were you introduced? No.
No, I was
Did
not.
she make a talk or do anything?
No, it was.
She's quite shy, Victoire.
She's very. Seems like it. I don't know her.
Now, does that make a difference to you buying the jewellery? Do you want to know the designer?
Well, I think it's a very interesting part of, in my opinion, the puzzle.
I remember when we were in Miami last year. It sounds like Ricky and I travel a lot together.
Are you guys lovers?
Oh my God! Don't out us here, Cameron.
So we were in Miami, and you very sweetly introduced me to a good girlfriend of yours.
Yes.
Who had a enormous high jewellery necklace from Louis Vuitton, and it was there was one massive gem. I don't know how many carats. Sort of rainbow, lines of rainbow studded semi-precious stones and diamonds.
Yes.
It was very important to her that she had the imagery of her being presented by Francesca.
Because it's not a transaction. And I talk about luxury all the time. I don't know if you agree with me or not. But when you buy luxury, high jewelry, high fashion, couture, it's not a transaction. It's a relationship. So you want to have a relationship with the designer. I mean, you're not going to may or may not connect with them on an intimate level, but it's nice to be also appreciated for what you're contributing to their creation. And when you don't meet them, when you don't talk, you just have a transaction, run my credit card and go right along. That's no fun.
No, I think that's a wonderful observation, and it's something that every brand, and I tell this to every brand, like, watch how Dolce & Gabbana engage with their clients and create this luxury summer camp. Mm-hmm. No one else does this like this. When even watching the Alta Moda collection yesterday, they clearly are designing pieces with a keen awareness of who might buy them. I mean, there were pieces that were going down the room, I'm like, okay, that is such a so-and-so piece.
I think I don't think all the brands do that. I think Cartier, Van Cleef, I think they pretty much, they make, 80 to 100 new pieces. And I think by the end of one of these trips, they pretty much know who's going to buy which piece. And they usually tell me they sell everything.
I mean, I used to work with Boucheron as their ambassador. And I mean, it was, it's such a special house and has so much history and mystery. The Countess de Castiglione, all of this sort of fantasy that not fantasy, it's factual, but it also makes it more fantastic.
Right.
And I remember we once did a very small dinner during Couture where I told all the guests, do not wear jewelry. And they brought out all the jewelry to the dinner table, and all the women got to play dress up. And it was and the men.
That's fantastic.
It was such a great idea. But people initially were so freaked out not to be wearing their jewelry to dinner. But again, it created a real authentic, it was not transactional. There was no expectation that you had to buy anything. Of course, every brand wants to sell things. But it was fun. It was like playing dress up. And I think, that's part of what's really magical about the Alta Moda is that, you play dress up. I mean, you certainly understand playing dress up.
I do.
And I love that because it is this permission to play for 5 or 6 days. I don't care if it's a straight guy or a gay guy. I don't care if you're from the Gulf of the Middle East or from the deep south of America. everybody just has this opportunity and is embraced for expressing themselves, and eccentricity is celebrated.
I will tell you something that I observed here that I thought was very interesting. I know a fair amount of people, and just because of my fashion, a lot of people come and talk and they want to, explore. And very often, which I think this is huge, how a brand, two people truly, Domenico and Stefano, they have the ability of making the guest feel completely free. So you see, I hear, not I don't even see, I hear people says, oh, I'm wearing this pink suit, but I wouldn't, a straight man with his wife, I wouldn't wear this pink suit anywhere else. I just do it over here. Someone else bought a very expensive embroidery suit. Oh, I cannot wear this at home, but I wear here. Those are like, it breaks the bounds. Yes. And all of a sudden they're not thinking about straight, gay, white, like this and that. It is celebration of beauty and fashion and jewelry all together.
Another point I think to that is that so many of the men here wear high jewelry. And I think that's quite unusual because I think traditionally, and still I think is the case in high jewelry in most brands, men are doing the buying. Of course there are exceptions and women are doing the wearing. But here I think it's the last barrier to break down this sort of fluid idea that actually men and women wear the high jewelry.
And historically have. I mean, look at the Maharaja culture. So, I mean, Domenico and Stefano are really bringing back that celebration of men embracing peacockism, for lack. I don't know if that's a real term.
It will be
for you.
Ask your husband, Ricky, because last night I said, my God, he's a peacock, isn't he?
But I love what you said about the men wearing the pink suit. Like my friend, the first night was wearing the blue and white kaftan. He is a heterosexual guy because he had seen me wearing it last year, and he ended up buying it. And I thought this is so awesome that this like total straight dude is wearing this blue and white Mallorca caftan. It's wonderful.
Because at the end of the day, as we always know, as we all suspect, they all love the fashion. They all love the jewelry. The straight man that they have to play this like I'm this business guy that wears suits and I'm strong and all that. But when they're here, that disappears almost, and they do whatever they want.
It's so true. But plus the multicultural aspect, there's people coming from so many parts of the world. This is like the United Nations of fashion. If they could get the 350 or 400 guests here to all run for politics in their local regions, we would have no war. I mean, everybody would look fabulous. And
yes.
But it's like there is that beauty of unity that happens. Obviously, we're in this sort of like, magical utopia.
If people are listening thinking, my God, how can everybody celebrate this? What relevance does it have to us? A lot of people were saying that we shouldn't have all been at couture in Paris while the riots were happening. But I think the argument to that is this is employing so many people who've worked over many years to produce these things. I think there's the employment factor that it keeps families fed, and also the factor that it preserves traditional skills and craftsmanship. And that's something that, we've been talking about here, and I think it's the same in every single fine jewellery house, that these skills are dying, they're fading arts, and we want to continue them, we want to celebrate them. People need to develop that, to fund it. They need to sell these pieces.
I have a funny story. I took several American clients to the show in Capri, which still remains my favorite show. It was just breathtaking. But we're at dinner after the show, and they opened up the room so you can look at things. And my friend who's with me says, I really want to go up and look at everything. I want to look at the jewelry. So she assumed that the jewelry we had just seen on the runway was costume jewelry. Oh. So I said, if you go up those stairs, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
At your own risk.
And of course, she texts me 5 minutes into oh my God, it's real. Because you can't believe how amazing these pieces are, because these are skills that we rarely see most high jewelers using. The micro mosaic thing.
Micro mosaic, cameo carving.
It's so beautiful.
Gold filigree that dates back to the Etruscans. And, they're reviving these skills. Last night we were talking about the olive trees and how 21 million have died, and they're trying to, Dame Helen Mirren's here supporting with Dolce to fund and support and regrow olive trees for this area so they can survive. It's their livelihood.
Yeah.
It's their olive oil.
Right.
And it is pretty incredible that buying these extraordinary pieces, which are one of a kind, so you are buying a piece of wearable art.
Well, this is what I want to ask you both, actually, because when we talk about high jewellery, some people might think, now what's the difference between high jewellery and fine jewellery? So do you have a way that you describe the difference, Ricky? High jewellery, fine jewellery?
So high jewelry, for the most part, it's something one of a kind. You will be the only one to have that piece. May not be made for you, but it's something that you can find from the show, and it's only you will have that piece. Now, fine jewelry, I guess was the other terminology used, then is something that is also use precious stones and something nice, and they have a very, but they are mass produced. So, and they may not be mass produced as in thousands. It could be 5, it could be 10, but it's still more than one.
So it's not to do with price.
Well, but the high jewelry, because there is something to do with price, because the stones may be bigger but not necessarily. It's just that the high jewelry can allow to have 100-carat diamond on, where the fine jewelry really, it will be in a store in Milan or in Paris, that unlikely that a client will like, yeah, I want that 100-carat necklace.
Yeah. And what's your description of the camera?
I think Ricky's very accurate. It is the piece of one of a kind wearable art that will never be replicated, and there is a premium to pay, because it's very different when you're creating a piece that's going to be produced, whether it's very limited as a fine jewelry piece or more accessible. But the work of the sketching, building the molds, sourcing the stones, it's very laborious, and you pay a major premium to have that piece. But then you get 5 meals in Diana Ross, so it's all good.
You get off at that night.
You get some carbs, you get some pasta in Diana.
Yes.
And it's the sort of labour skills, the different skills in the workshop, the time it takes. And I guess, as you say, the fine jewellery, they can replicate across many pieces, so the development costs of that can be shared. Whereas
Exactly.
in the one-off, it's all in the one-off.
Right.
So I suppose you could say that high jewellery doesn't necessarily have to have a stone in it, a big stone. It can just be that workmanship in gold.
One of my favorite pieces that sold at the high jewelry event the other night was really thick gold links with small stones. I mean, it wasn't about the rock.
Right.
That it was more about the design was just amazing. And I teased the person who bought it. I go, that's super wearable. You can do that. You can wear that to Whole Foods. Totally. And that's like the magic of this experience, that you are getting something one of a kind, and then it becomes an heirloom.
Ricky, I know that obviously because you're in that category, you must get chased by all the other fine jewellery brands. And you were telling me the other day about some ways that other brands are trying to entice people to come in by making special clubs for high jewellery buyers and things like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, what kind of ways do they reach out to you?
The latest is essentially you become, which I think is kind of insane. You probably heard about this. You buy this virtual something, and then after you buy the virtual thing, you can buy other jewelry. I was like, oh, you buy to buy? I mean, you don't give me to buy. So because once you buy this, then essentially you get into the club, which you should be part of the club already, but now they're creating 200 people out of this 500 people. So they're kind of trying to narrow it down. But then the offers, and that's what it was my fears, then the offers becomes outlandish, right? Oh, now you're part of this 200. So, we have this new necklace for $200 million. Well, okay, wonderful. So,
and then they want the 200 to sort of bid against each other to buy it?
Essentially, yes. Mm-hmm. That's the idea.
I did hear a story here from a big stylist who looks after a lot of people in Asia, that one of his clients bought a small diamond and gold Kelly bag for $1.9 million as a one-off.
Yes.
And then she went to a party and she saw another one, but it was in white gold. So they obviously the justification was there's one in yellow, one in white. But $1.9 million, you kind of do expect it to be the only one in the world.
Yeah. So my feeling for jewelry and couture also, I've been told multiple times that I'm buying one of one, which is very important to me because the world that we are privileged to be part of, it's where if someone in Asia or someone in whatever part of the world, they will come to the same event. So even though it can be only a small group of people, but they go to the same event, right? And so many times I was like, oh, you're buying this jacket or this piece and it's only here, the only one in the world. And then you go to United States and that happened with me. I walk in the store in Las Vegas and they're like, Ricky, we got something special for you. And they show me the same jacket. And so I texted and I was like, the person, I said, well, what happened with the one of a kind? So if you don't know, they say it's one and friends. Just don't, and so, they do that.
Regional distribution.
Yes, and they do that. And also, on jewelry, I may be, well, I don't know if I'm 100% correct this, but I'm pretty sure. They do by region, not Dolce&Gabbana. And that is, again, the beauty of Dolce&Gabbana Alta Gioelleria and Alta Sartoria, Alta Moda, is that it's one worldwide. Mm-hmm. It's not one for America, one for Europe, one for Asia, no. It's one for the world. So you don't have, it's truly unique. Where the other brands, even in jewelry, is by continent. The couture is by continent. Mm-hmm. So people have the same thing. And why would you spend 1.9 million or 1 million or a dress for 300 or whatever it is, and then you find someone with the same thing, then I buy ready to wear and I spend 1,000.
Well, because the world is very small.
Very.
I mean, so that the people who are the high jewelry buyers or the couture buyers, socially, it's a similar circuit. In America, like everyone in Palm Beach, then they end up going to the Hamptons. So it's like you're dealing with similar groups that are going region to region. So if you're being sold on one of a kind, you really want one of a kind. And I think it's very important for brands to have transparency. And I was explaining to a client who I was shopping for in Paris, who was buying a Schiaparelli couture bag. And I said, like, this bag is going to be made for you, but it's not going to be exclusive for you. There maybe they'll make 3 or 4 of these.
So the important thing is
You have to explain this to respect the client. It's not about, I always say it's not about just making the sale. It's about making the relationship.
It's client focus. It's not transactional focus. And in a lot of those things that are very, very high end, granted, yes, there is. Yesterday I was in the car with someone that said, oh, here there is the most influential and powerful people in the world. And it is true. But even them, they have to think about it. You don't buy $1 million or $2 million like you go in a grocery store and pick up a carton of milk. It's not like that.
Well, wealthy clients will know roughly. They can compare.
Of course.
They can compare. They probably know stone values by now, and they know what goes into a piece. And so they're going to be very aware. They don't want to be ripped off in any way.
No, absolutely not.
Also, everybody has a budget. I don't care how rich or how legendary your family's name is. Everybody has a budget. I always say, people ask me, what do you do when you're helping people buy couture? I say, I help very wealthy people buy less, more, better. And I think that's like an important thing because it's very seductive.
Very.
In these things, and you kind of get vulnerable. I mean, I don't, because I'm not buying. I mean, I'm vicariously living through people buying, but it's very easy to get seduced into this. And you also have to be very careful the client doesn't burn out. I mean, having gone to these shows since like the early 2000s, couture or high jewelry, you can burn out. The client can get burnt out if they get oversold or they've overspent, regardless of what their budget is. So I think one needs to be very mindful to, again, not make it too transactional. Make it visceral.
Because there is a big difference. And I talk to the houses when I talk to people that can. There is a difference about budget and how much you feel comfortable spending. Mm-hmm. You may be able to buy anything in the world, but are you comfortable in spending that much money for that piece? And that's a different subject. And sometimes sales consultants don't understand that. They think, oh, you're rich, you should buy it.
Yes.
But it's not like that.
for a lot of brands, there certainly is an expectation of the client. And if the client feels pressured, that's certainly a major turnoff. And I always tell these brands that it may not always convert every year for that client. And I think it's okay. One year you don't buy something, but it's not like you shouldn't be canceled.
Right.
It's like these are long-term relationships.
Right.
And I have a store in Los Angeles, and I always tell my staff, it's not about the one sale. Like if you have a big sale, that's great. It's about the 25 years of building the relationship with the client. And I think that's how brands need to be very sensitive.
Do you think, Cameron, that there's even a tinier little bubble above the 1% that don't want to come to these events and want everything flown to them?
Oh, I have several friends who they're done with the events. And I think I understand, like they've done it for 10 years and they want a break. Life changes.
But not just here, not just the Dolce.
No, just in general. They're just, I have a couple of friends who say, like, I don't need to go to Paris. If there's anything I really like, the brand will bring it to me, or I can look at it online. I mean, Dolce is very different because you do want to be here and experience it. But
Yes.
but sometimes, I took 1 year off, and I've been at every single one since the first, because there's other life to live. But in general, I know that the second week of July is usually Camp D&G.
Yes.
Is there a sort of cut-off point of what somebody would have to spend to get the brand to fly everything over to them, the jewellery, the clothes?
I don't know if there's a real number. It's about, again, if you're looking at the long haul, it's in the brand's interest to accommodate the client.
And I think it depends from brand to brand and the contact that you have at the brand. For example, I don't buy anything from online. I do not shop online. If I'm gonna buy something, I wanna see, I wanna touch it, I wanna try it on. If you send me a picture, okay, wonderful, I like it. Either you send it to me or I go and I'll take a look. Otherwise, I won't buy it.
It's so funny. I'm very much the same way. And there is something in the pop-up here that I had seen online. I was fascinated by the fabric and was researching the fabric. And then after we finish recording this, I'm going to actually try it on in person for real, because that's how I like to consume. Because I don't want to call it consumption, but that's the feeling I want to have. I mean, this is also with this world, with the Alta Moda and the high jewelry. It's how do you buy a beautiful piece of jewelry like that without trying it on? It's beyond consumption. It's about a feeling. Fashion is about feelings. I mean, having had this business for nearly 27 years about vintage fashion, I always bring up this story, which I think is relevant to high jewelry. But I remember being at a woman's closet in Santa Monica who had recently been widowed, and she took out a dress to show me that was Chantilly lace, a shift dress, and she said, "This is the dress I met my husband in." And that's what it's about when you buy something special. You're always going to have the memory of who you were with. You're going to feel what the weather was like. How was the pasta al dente cooked?
Yes,
like all
yes,
of those
yes.
things, those
Yes.
emotions, and I think nobody captures that experience better than Dolce&Gabbana. So it doesn't feel like you're consuming. It feels like you're living and tasting and touching, and then you get a really good souvenir sometimes.
Yes, that's very true.
Does it make a difference to you, Ricky? Do you ask when you're buying high jewellery, do you want to know where it's been made and where the workshops are? Does that make a difference to you?
Does not.
It doesn't.
It
That's
doesn't.
interesting.
It doesn't.
So even though you're spending it, you don't need to know it was made in Paris, it was in the centre of luxury.
I guess what is behind the work, it's interesting to me. But would that move me one way or the other? And one is you're buying Alta Gioelleria. I know it's made in Italy, so...
Yes. Do you need to know where the stone's from if you're buying a big stone?
The stones are interesting to know where the stones are from.
And the sustainability and what happens.
Yes, absolutely.
That comes part of it, yeah. Cameron, what's the most amazing event you've heard of that a brand's thrown that you thought, my God, that's impressed me?
I've been very fortunate to go to a lot of events. I mean, I was at Bulgary's 125th anniversary, which coincided with my 40th birthday.
Was that in Venice?
This was in Rome.
In Rome.
And I remember, personally, it was very special because Mr. Bulgari realized it was my birthday, and they did like a birthday event for me,
Oh.
which was very sweet. And for me, that was very special because it was his private car, not museum, but it was like his parking lot of cars. But we were all together for dinner. But I'd say the most special memory I have from all of the Alta Modas was one winter in Milan where Domenico took my hand and said, let's go look at the Last Supper. And just like looking at the Last Supper with this amazing creative soul who has such reverence for the Italian arts. I mean, that was so special. That's what Dolce&Gabbana is about. That you're with these incredible men who have such a reverence for their country and love of the art and the craft. And I think that's what Dolce&Gabbana does that no other brand can do it, particularly because the creators are engaged. And I always tell people, you'll never work with a house that has that kind of warmth because it is really family. I didn't get it the first time when I went to Taormina. Like, I didn't get what they were doing. I was so used to the Paris way of shows. Like, I totally didn't get it. But I totally drink the Kool-Aid now. And I shouldn't say Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the Prosecco.
I think somebody asked me, funnily enough, the other day, they said, oh, you must have been to so many events over so many years, which I have, and I've had some marvellous experiences with most of the brands. But if I had to sort of remember one above all others, it was so simple, but that made it so special, and it was having dinner. I'd gone in the day with Paloma Picasso on a boat around the Venetian canals, looking at some of the things where she had memories and that had inspired her collection. And then we had dinner with her husband and someone from Tiffany on the roof of the Guggenheim at night. You know, the Guggenheim Museum, that flat roof, which is one of the most special places, the unfinished palazzo. And we could just hear the water and the odd boat going past. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so lucky to do this job because that was a really unique experience. And as you say, involving the creator.
Yes. I mean, because it doesn't always have to have bells and whistles. It's those simple moments. I mean, listen, the dinner we had in Paris last Monday with that Elito hosted.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that was so special. You know, being in the presence of Marisa Berenson and developing a friendship over dinner. It's those...
And so chic, so Parisian, it was incredible.
And yeah, the greatest gift I get from my Dolce&Gabbana family is that, like, these friends that I have all over the world. There are so many bar mitzvahs and weddings and anniversaries. So it lives the magic of what we're experiencing right now in Puglia. We get to continue through our friendships outside of the actual Dolce&Gabbana activation.
You come ready for the reunion, the family reunion.
Yes.
Ricky, what's the most spectacular moment for you that you've had with any brand that you remember?
Well, it's a very difficult question. I would say that Alta Moda in Sicily last year, in front of that.
Oh, the Duomo.
The Duomo.
Oh.
I caught myself, like, I wouldn't say in tears, but getting emotional because I thought, like, am I really seeing this? Is this really happening? That I'm one of the people in the world that's sitting here in front of history, in history being made at the same time,
It
right?
was beautiful. It was more beautiful than any production, I think, that, say, the Royal Opera House or any it could have put on.
I couldn't ever describe to whoever listens to this what that experience was, because, you know, the time of the day and the way the sun was hitting, I mean, every single thing, it was carved to be that way somehow.
And yet it was based on nature and history, and it's
You know,
incredible.
if you really think it's not overly, I mean, the scene itself, the Duomo and all that was spectacular, but it was not anything more than a runway and tables and chairs.
Yeah.
And then fabulous people.
All of these shows have an element of emotion to them that I don't necessarily experience at other shows. I mean, even last night, it was so beautiful. And it was more of a minimal fashion show last night. The clothes were less kind of over the top. But the simplicity and the setting and you know, this historical, magical village, it's always, I feel like I leave a Dolce&Gabbana Alta experience smarter because I learn about an area, and and it's I just love the fact that I've been to this region, but I didn't know it. Like we're going to know it after this.
So I was going to make a comment earlier and lost my train of thought, and you just got it again. So I'm an Italian citizen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So my family truly is originally from Venice. And Dolce&Gabbana make me be a better Italian.
That's so beautiful.
Because they bring me to things that, sure, we travel, as you said, we go to regions, but sometimes you just pass by, you don't really know. They immerse you there. And that is a gift itself.
Do you think that's more valuable than other brands who run around the world finding different places? Do you think it's better just to be committed?
Oh my God.
To one place?
No, hands down.
Oh, I mean, I think Dolce&Gabbana should be, given every celebratory award for what they do for this country. I mean, I want to become ambassador to Italy in like 10 years. I know so much more about Italy now because of all of my, 11 Dolce&Gabbana Alta Modas. But it's really like, I've always loved Italy. I studied Italian when I was in college, but you come here, like, I'm not an Italian citizen, but sign me up.
Right.
I love it.
Because they make you be a better person.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in my case, because I'm an Italian citizen, make you be a better Italian, and that's incredible.
And I think that I love what you said about becoming a better person, because we are interacting with so many different cultures and people, and yes, they're very, very privileged people.
Right.
But I mean, I love it. I have my friend from Chile, my friend from Bahrain. It's just all of these different friends we're making. I could spend my entire life just flying to visit another friend that I've made through this, and everyone's really nice. And I think it begins at the top, because Domenico and Stefano are nice boys from Sicily who are just creative.
Well, Stefano's from Milan.
Yes, Milan. But there is this sort of Sicilian.
Yes.
It's the authentic Italy, which I love so much.
The trickle-down effect,
Yes.
right? So it brings from the top, and it comes through the people that work with them. The family. What can we talk about their family for a second? What a wonderful people they are. I mean, I talk to them every day. The nephews and nieces. I mean, they're just the most adorable people.
And all the people who oversee this amazing Alta experience. Like, they're just more and more family. There's nothing like, I'm always like, what can I do to help make things easier, better for you?
And then when it comes then to the clients, when there is a person that, which every so often, very rare, which I think a lot of people don't understand that, it's very rare to meet someone that is like, oh, that person. Because it's a literally equal level, right? So there is not a more famous, more rich, more this, more that. It's a pretty plain.
And I love that at these shows, like, nobody freaks out. Okay, I'm not on the first row, I'm the third row.
No.
I mean, I was at a show in Paris, and there was a woman seated 2 seats from me who was so freaking out about her seat. Like, she was front row. I mean, but she didn't like the position of it. Like, this doesn't happen here. Everyone just goes with the flow, and it's just a privilege to be here.
I think a price is something that always intrigues people, because I know, having done so many shoots for so many years for magazines, that when you have to put POA, price on application, you get quite frustrated. You say, but come on, ballpark, what is it in the ballpark figure? So I thought, here, I know that fine jewellery is, you can buy pieces for around 60 to 70,000 pounds. And the most expensive piece here is a 10-carat pink diamond, which is 15 million.
Did you buy that?
Yeah, really.
Oh, no.
Really, any pressure.
Yes, money.
So, did you see anything that you're kind of tempted by? Another cross, perhaps?
Yes, I have my eyes in 2 different pieces. New one.
Can you share what those are?
So a new cross. I think there is a cross with an emerald and some peridot it's just divine. In which, as a matter of fact, the crosses they use it, obviously they are not really for men, for women, because it's a cross. But the idea is that a man can buy a cross, right? Because, for you to buy a necklace with roses and strawberries, it's a bit unlikely, but for a lady, it will be very beautiful. But they make those crosses knowing that there is a market that the man also wants to buy and they want to have beautiful things.
I'm Jewish. I'd buy a cross. They're so beautiful.
Yeah, and they are beautiful. So there's a cross
Yes.
that I'm very interested in. And then there is the famous Sicilia necklace.
Oh, yeah. What, with written?
With
Oh my God.
Yes.
Describe that, Ricky.
Oh my, yeah, I'm gonna need your help, both of your help. What is the name of that metal, maybe sometimes it's gold that goes in churches that kind of has rays, almost look like a sun, with the Sacred Heart in the center, and it is very, very large, and it has the word Sicilia around with diamonds. And I saw that piece, I like very large pieces.
Oh, I know.
Very, very large.
Not a wallflower here.
No. And so that was it's a very large piece, and with rubelites and garnets and diamonds, but there was a magic to it. So I saw in Milan for the first time, and then they invited me for dinner at their apartment in New York. So I went there, and the piece was we're in talks. Then yesterday, someone says, "Oh, remember that necklace that you want that they're talking? Look who's wearing." Kim Kardashian was wearing last night.
Was she?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So she got into the fashion show wearing a diamond necklace, a very big diamond necklace. And I think after that, I don't know if she changed her outfit. I really did not see her.
She was wearing the Bordeaux. She looked beautiful.
Right. Did she change outfits for the dinner?
I didn't see what she wore at dinner. So.
But I saw the necklace.
The necklace pivot.
Because they said now she's wearing your necklace. I mean, it's not mine, but the one that I'm interested in. So I was like, did you buy it? Well, I don't know. I said, well, you need to let me know if you buy it or not.
Okay, so that's fantastic. So next time I see you, I'll know. I'll be able to report back to the listeners whether or not you're the proud owner of Sicilia. And I think as an Italian, you are obliged.
Yes.
Yes.
And then when Kim sees you wearing it, it'll be, that's Ricky's necklace.
Yeah, that's the
Little
one.
competition is quite healthy.
Yes.
You against Kim Kardashian. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Ricky. And it's just lovely to hear about the life of a high jewellery buyer directly. And thank you. And Cameron, thank you so much for giving me your expertise over many years.
My pleasure. I love hearing you speak and write about this world. So everyone has to get a copy of your book.
Oh, thank you.
Because you have the definitive book now on the Dolce&Gabbana
I
Jewellery.
do. And the definitive book coming out about the podcast.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Are we getting the cover?
If Jules could talk.
I want to be on the cover. For
Yeah,
sure.
we
should be on the cover, right,
For
Cameron?
sure.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
take a,
Cover decided. Check.
Let's
No
take a-
worries anymore.
we need to take a really good selfie for the cover.
Thank you guys, and see you again later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. For this and other episodes of If Jewels Could Talk, please go to our website, carolwoolton.com. Share it any way you can. Do leave us a comment and a rating. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast feed. There's a link on our website because we're up for an award at the British Podcast Awards, so we'd love your support, and if you would like to vote for us, there's a link there. And please join me again in 2 weeks for the next Jewelled Nugget. We're going to be talking with the legendary British architect John Pawson about the synergy between architecture and jewels. So please join us then, and thank you for listening. Goodbye. If Jewels Could Talk with Carol Woolton is produced by Natasha Cowan, music and editing by Tim Thornton, graphics by Scott Bentley, illustration by Jordi Labanda, and you can find me on Instagram at Carol Woolton.